Europe is under threat. According to UNESCO, very soon, large cities on the Mediterranean coast, including Marseille, Istanbul, and even Alexandria in Egypt will get hit by a tsunami. The scientists of the international organization have firmly declared that they are 100% sure of their calculations. Afterward, the UN claimed that by 2023, the list of cities that can be hit by tsunamis would have 40 more cities from 21 countries. It's still difficult to predict what the wave height will be. But if it reaches at least 1.5 meters, the tsunami will be able to carry away cars, damage power lines, and flood the first floors of residential buildings. Europe is unlikely to get off with such an easy outcome. Moreover, a tsunami isn't even the most dangerous ocean phenomenon yet, so one wave can destroy humanity very soon. $2,000 for Indonesia. An English family is heading to Macau Beach in Thailand for a swim in the ocean. Suddenly 10-year-old Tilly Smith gets the girl's mother thinks this is just her daughter's imagination and continues to walk towards the water. Most people are entirely unable to recognize the approaching tsunami. Therefore, now UNESCO is developing a program to prepare the population for the coming catastrophe. Residents of hazardous areas will have to learn how to differentiate the signs of an impending tsunami from false alarm. But besides tsunamis, there are other deadly natural ocean phenomena that are even more unpredictable. For example, ocean solitary killer waves. Their height can reach more than 30 meters, which is 15 times the average wave. The USS Ramapo is known for being hit by wave as high as 34 meters. Such a wave could submerge half of Africa's tallest lighthouse, Nosy Alana Light, but the ship remained relatively unscathed. The crew managed to survive, although usually, when encountering a killer wave, the hulls of the ships can't withstand the enormous pressure in the vessel, sink in a matter of minutes. Such a sad fate also waits the ships that will meet square waves. They intersect with each other at right angles, forming a pattern on the surface of a water, like on a chessboard. This often occurs when the wind drives the waves in one direction and the sea current drives them in another. Usually they're not higher than 3 meters. But this doesn't prevent the waves from clamping the ship in a vice from all four sides as if it got into a sea trap. And there's almost no chance of getting out of it. But the rarest oceanic phenomenon to this day is the drought nerd killer wind wave in 1995 in the North Sea. Among the 10-meter waves, one particularly enormous wave appeared, which was very uncharacteristic of the ocean. It was picked up by a laser wave recorder on the drop near old drilling platform. The device showed that its crest reached a height of about 27 meters. Fortunately, no one was hurt. Scientists still don't know for sure what forms them, and don't, because it was the first and only case when the drought or wave was recorded. But that doesn't mean it only appeared once. Such killer waves may form more often than we think. It's just that those who've met them can no longer tell us about them. After all, a sudden 30-meter wave simply destroys everything that comes in its way. Unlike the drought nor wave, tsunamis have already been studied quite well. Evidence of past tsunamis helps scientists determine the cause of, and sometimes they even allow us to predict when a colossal killer wave will appear again. For example, look at this. It's called Chicxulub, and it was left by an asteroid about 14 kilometers in diameter. An asteroid crashed in our planet at an incredible speed 66 million years ago. The shockwave from this collision provoked 100-meter height tsunami. In our time, it would completely cover Big Bang, and the wave was so powerful that it destroyed the sediments at the bottom of the ocean, leaving a kind of gap in the geological record of our planet. Traces of this wave can be seen in 120 rock samples collected around the world. That tsunami was followed by an Ice Age mandate. Extinction of most living organisms is dinosaurs. Could not survive such a catastrophe. What if such a tsunami happened to humanity? We know from history that even a smaller wave is enough to destroy entire settlements in the south. Archaeologists have found sea stones, pebbles, and shells in the sediments of Earth rocks, which in some strange way happen to be many kilometers from the ocean. Then whole stone buildings of our ancestors were found. Only now the walls of these houses looked as if something had tilted or tipped them. So scientists determined that almost 4,000 years ago, a mega-earthquake occurred on the territory of modern Chile. It was followed by a tsunami with 20-meter high waves. They could almost completely cover the Chile and monumental lighthouse of La Serena. Scientists say this tsunami was caused by the collision of two tectonic plates. Therefore, the coast of Chile is still in the dangerous zone. The Nazca Oceanic Plate is slowly descending under the South American continental plate. Because of this, earthquakes and tsunamis repeatedly occur here. So in 1966, the most powerful earthquake in the history of mankind happened in Chile. Its magnitude reached a maximum of 9.5. It was followed by a tsunami, although the wave height reached only 10 meters, which is much lower than that tsunami that wiped. It completely destroyed a number of coastal towns in Chile and took the lives of 150 people. And when the wave reached California, the number of victims increased to 6,000. Scientists suggest that such a catastrophe can occur in Chile every 1,000 years. As you can see, modern tsunamis are in no way inferior to prehistoric ones. But why did scientists decide that tsunami would soon cover Europe? There are suggestions that the cause of the impending disaster is the active volcano Etna located on the Italian island of Sicily. Researchers have noticed that it's slowly and inevitably slipping into the Mediterranean Sea. At the same time in 2022, erupted twice already. Such tectonic changes have more than once turned into deadly catastrophes for humanity with the worst consequences. So Chile doesn't calm down and begs her family to run away as soon as possible. Finally, her dad listens to her. Shortly before this, the island of Sumatra, which is located nearby, shuddered from an earthquake. It lasted 10 minutes, during which about 30 cubic kilometers of water were pushed out from the Indian Ocean. That tsunami reached the shores of Indonesia, Sri Lanka, southern India and Thailand, where Tilly's family was standing. The maximum wave height recorded that day was 30 meters. This is even higher than the Thailand Democracy Monument. That tsunami claimed the lives of at least 184,000 people, but Tilly's family managed to escape the consequences for European cities. After a large-scale tsunami will be even more terrifying. We can judge them by looking at Japan, which has experienced tsunamis and earthquakes more than once. It all because this state is located in the most dangerous zone. Japan is located at the junction of four tectonic plates: the Pacific, North American, Eurasian, and Philippines. In addition, it's located in a ring of fire, a region where numerous volcanic eruptions occur. In 1792, one of them, Mount Wunzan, erupted for 2 whole months. All this was accompanied by a series of earthquakes. And then one of the lava domes collapsed into the water, causing a massive tsunami. The wave reached a height of 100 meters, which is the size of one of the most famous Japanese statues, who she could die Butzel. The disaster claimed the lives of 14,000 people. In this isn't the worst tsunami trigger by a volcano yet. Back in March of 1980, residents of Washington State in the United States felt a series of underground tremors. That meant only one thing: Mount St. Helens was ready to erupt. However, it could be called an explosion rather than an eruption. The thing is that on the northern slope of the mountain, a huge bulging appeared by may indeed increase 200 meters and was growing at a rate of 1.5 meters per day. At any moment, this lump could explode with the power no one had yet observed in modern history. In anticipation of a disaster and a free spectacle, tourists, photographers, and journalists began to flock to the mountain during the next earthquake. With a magnitude of 5.1, the volcano's northern slope exploded and broke away from the mountain. Then a wave of earth and ice rolled down the mountain. At a speed of 240 kilometers per hour, a lump of rock fell into Spirit Lake with such force that a wave with a height of 250 meters hit the shore. It was even higher than the Washington Capitol Dam. The water level in the lake doubled the ash from the eruption mixed with the water and formed a powerful mud stream that swept away everything in its path. Fortunately, there were no settlements near the lake, and no one would have been hurt by the waves if not for the desire to take a photo as a keepsake. That day that tsunami and eruption took the lives of 57 people. They were the ones who came to see the catastrophe. Photographer Robert Landsberg was in the affected area of the volcano, and when he realized that death was irreversible, he decided to photograph until the last second. Then he put the case with the film in his backpack and laid down on it to protect the shots taken from the ash and magma rushing. Adam Landsberg was found 17 days later buried under the rubble. But his film was in good condition and greatly helped scientists study earthquakes that led to tsunamis. Today, researchers of natural disasters say that a catastrophe of this magnitude could overtake Europe within the next 30 years. If you live in a coastal zone, a tsunami can happen. When journalists asked Tilly Smith how she managed to predict the tsunami, the girl said that she noticed strange foam with hissing bubbles and unusual waves along the coast. She remembered these signs from a geography lesson when the teacher played a black and white video of the tsunami in Hawaii in 1946. There the waves didn't go back to the sea, but rolled further inland. It was the same way on the beach where her family wanted to relax. These are the main signs that a huge wave will soon cover the coast, but residents of coastal regions should be aware that you can notice its tsunami much earlier. First of all, you'll notice the bare bottom. The fact is that before tremendous wave hits the shore, the water will move further and further away. You should also pay attention. They instinctively feel the approach of a tsunami and will immediately begin to run away from the water. People living in areas where tsunamis often occur get their own fish when the disaster is about to happen. They start acting weird and fidgeting in the aquarium. This warns the owners of an impending natural disaster. These tips are absolutely useless if the tsunami is artificial. It turns out that such a cataclysm can be created not only by nature. A killer tsunami can be created on purpose. Back in the Second World War, one U.S. Navy officer noticed that small waves appeared on the water after a series of underwater explosions to clear core waves. He wondered what kind of wave could be created if the bomb were much more powerful than the military of the United States. And New Zealand began to develop a classified project codenamed. The concept of a weapon was thought to be possible, but was never created, at least not by the Americans. In 2018, Russia unveiled plans for a 20 to 100 megaton tsunami bomb called the Poseidon Torpedo. It was supposed to be an unmanned underwater vehicle with a nuclear power plant and nuclear weapons, about 24 meters long. And already in 2022, after the whole world began to help Ukraine fight Russian terrorism on its territories, the aggressor country began to hint that Moscow could wipe Britain off Earth with a nuclear tsunami in retaliation for supporting Ukraine, even detonate a bomb off the coast of the United States. Presumably the torpedo can be launched from a submarine or lie hidden at the bottom as ranges up to 10,000 kilometers. The device moves slowly so that radars can't see it, and near to target it accelerates to 100 km per hour. A charge of up to 200 megatons can create a tsunami wave up to 500 meters high. It's even taller than the Empire State Building. Presumably, if such a wave appeared off the coast of the United States, and the emerging tsunami can go 500 kilometers inland and reach Washington, and Russia claims that it already has 34 such Poseidon bombs in service with the Northern and Pacific fleets. It's unknown whether Russia's statements about its tower can be trusted, but just in case, you need to be prepared for the worst: be a crazy dictator with a red button or an impending Mediterranean tsunami. As soon as Tilly Smith's father heard about a possible tsunami from his daughter, he immediately appealed to the hotel staff to evacuate vacationers from the beach. Thus, the schoolgirl saved not only her family on that terrible day, but also about 100 tourists, and the girl was nicknamed Angel of the Beach. And you've already understood from the story of the determined Tilly, you need to act immediately in such situations. After all, if the government is likely to have time to warn the population about a nuclear strike, it's much more difficult to predict the exact time of the formation of a tsunami. In 2011, the Great East Japan earthquake hit Fukushima. With its tsunami, it disabled the power units at the local nuclear power plant. The wave reached the shore in just 10 minutes. And this means you'll also have very little time to save yourself. The first thing you should do is get away from the shore. That tsunami will most likely wash away all roads. Therefore, fleeing by car is not a good idea. Head on foot towards the hills and mountains. If you decide to wait out the tsunami in a skyscraper, keep in mind that you're still in danger in the building. Intense water pressure can break the glass, so it's best to wait out for tsunami on the roof of a high-rise building. If you're trapped and can't get away from the shore, climb a sturdy tree. Czech model Petra Nemkova escaped tsunami in the Maldives by spending about 8 hours on the top of a palm tree. Remember that if the wave covers your head, don't scream, because you will swallow water and drown. In the main mistake is to go down from the hills, leave the shelters, and go home as soon as you notice that the wave has receded. The fact is that there can be a lot of such waves. They can roll one by one for hours, and each subsequent one will be stronger than the previous one. To be on the safe side, wait for the all clear or other notification from the authorities to confirm that the danger is past. If you fell into the water during the disaster, you need to climb onto something that floats nearby. For example, 13-year-old girl Maya from India was saved that way during a natural disaster. On the island of Car Nicobar, a child was swept away from the She spent 2 days at sea clinging to a wooden door piece which saved her life. But if the tsunami catches you when you're already in the water, congratulations, you'll stay alive. However, only if you're not on a boat or ship but underwater and far enough from the coast. Like to Japanese Akihiko Tada, who was scuba diving near Sri Lanka during the impending tsunami, the Indian Ocean in 2004. The girl remained alive, being in fact at the epicenter of events. This happened because tsunami usually concentrates always energy near the coast. And remember that the retreat of the tsunami is not the end. The catastrophe will leave behind ruins, destroy buildings, destroy infrastructure, and problems with water and food supply. Those who survive can expect post-traumatic syndrome, stress, trauma, hunger, cold, and lack of housing and medicines. So it's best to always be prepared for the worst-case scenario. Tilly Smith not only survived the tsunami with her family, but also became famous for her heroic deed. She's now 22 and lectures around the world on disaster risk. You should also take care of yourself and your family by gathering essential items and a first aid kit. Pause the video and take a screenshot of the list of items for the emergency suitcase I prepared for you. Place all of the above in an airtight bag and put it in a bag that will only be your hand, yes. Just in case, but I hope you won't need any of this.